The objective of the Tarzan field trip is to introduce you to a non-native forest established for erosion control. The southern hills were probably once mostly covered in native forest, but deliberate burning, starting with the first inhabitants and continuing today, has left the hills covered only with grass, and in many places called badlands, no vegetation at all, continually eroding onto the reefs. Here you see some of the grassland near the trail. The forest behind is called the Cotal Conservation Area, planted and managed by Guam Department of Agriculture.
I've got a pair of shoes at home. Shall I just pull in right here?
Mm-hmm. Their mom said, we're going to go on a hike. It's a virtual field trip. Yeah, so.
This field trip takes us just a short way along the level first part of the trail to the falls, through to the first look-off. To the bottom of the falls is 1.4 miles down some steep hills. And back up, of course. We go only half a mile each way. You will be able to hear the wind turbine whirring the whole time in the background on this breezy day. Okay, this is Dr. Chris Lobman and Dr. Maria Schefter, and we're out to do a virtual video field trip here at Tarzan, the top of Tarzan Falls. We're going to go take a look at the erosion and the tree plantings, and we'll also take a look at the not only the native plants and vegetation, but also at the wind turbine that's over here. The trees that have been planted here are mostly acacia, introduced from Australia because it grows well in poor soil, is fairly fire resistant, and produces abundant seeds. What appear to be leaves are actually flattened branch systems, filled in with photosynthetic tissue, like the webbing in a duck's foot. It is a legume that can fix nitrogen with the help of symbiotic bacteria in root nodules. The seeds are formed in corkscrew-shaped pods, each seed on the end of an orange thread. In the mature forest, where the trees are well spaced, there is a thick undergrowth of bracken ferns and lycopods, both non-flowering plants, along with a variety of grasses and other flowering plants. Here we're looking at the bracken fern that's everywhere through here, and growing on top of it is this parasitic vine, which is a native, or at least a native species. Although most plants get their food through photosynthesis, this plant plugs itself into other plants and takes most of its nutrient from them. Where water has collected in puddles, introduced barking frogs can be heard. So there we've got about 4 or 5 feet here of volcanic ash that's just been gradually eroding away more and more as we look at this road. It's eroded down. A little bit of erosion control here. The Department of Agriculture has used biodegradable netting to help stabilize the soil on the edges of slopes, both here, where there has been extensive erosion into the basin below, now with many bare patches, and further along the trail after the fire destroyed the ground cover. We enter an area where the established forest burned about a year ago. Here are some stills taken about 8 months later, with the acacia already sending up a dense carpet of new shoots. Now we find the new shoots still dense and 4 to 5 feet high. Acacia seeds buried to 5 centimeters or less are stimulated to germinate after moderate or flash fires. They will eventually thin out as the forest re-establishes. Well, last time we were out here at Christmas time, people were looking at all these young sprouts coming up, and they wanted to know, are these coming up from seeds or are they coming up from the rootstocks that might still be left alive? Fires are not a natural part of the ecology in Guam, So our native trees do not recover readily like this. But whenever death occurs in nature, decomposers recycle the materials. Termites and fungi are the most visible decomposers of woody plant material, while ants will eat any dead animals, such as the thousands of tiny soil organisms in the first few centimeters of soil that probably perished in the fire. Let's look at some of the grassland plants. The bamboo orchid is a common sight now in southern Guam, and it may be gradually replacing the native ground orchid, Spadaglossum. This little plant is one of the endemic species here. It's called Philanthus saffordi. Looks like a little Christmas tree. And it has rows of little tiny flowers on the back of the stem. The species is named in honor of Navy Lieutenant William Safford, who compiled the book The Useful Plants of the Island of Guam in 1903. Noni, locally called Lada, is indigenous in the Mariana Islands. The Western Pacific Tropical Research Center says that one of the reasons that noni is so widespread here is its adaptive ability to grow in all of the habitat types. Coastal sites impose salt spray and salinity intrusion, volcanic soils impose calcium deficiency and aluminum toxicity, and the calcareous soils impose acute deficiencies of several micronutrients. Lada is on a short list of native plants that seem to tolerate all these stressors. We have arrived at the look-off at the end of the level part of the trail. The view looks over the Elig River Valley toward Leo Palace and the Meningan Hills. From here one could start a steep descent to the top of the falls, then another scramble down to the base. Fires are a potential hazard during the dry season, while slippery slopes and flash floods are a problem in the rainy season. This screen capture from Google Earth shows the geography we were looking over. Turning back through the regenerating acacia forest, we soon see the wind turbine. It stands 233 feet tall and produces up to 275 kilowatts of electricity, enough to power around 50 houses. It has operated since March 2016, but was damaged during a typhoon in 2018 and was out of commission for several months. There is an interesting optical effect here, as the two blades seem to move down more rapidly than they move across the bottom of their path when it is seen from the side as an ellipse. But when seen from directly in front or behind, the path is circular and the speed appears consistent. During a typhoon, the engine and its huge propellers must be lowered to the ground by the massive pulley system you see here. The engine can only work within a certain range of wind speeds. Although Guam Power Authority is committed to increasing the percentage of renewable energy in their output, they seem to be focusing on solar rather than wind power, with 2 more big solar fields scheduled to open in 2021. Okay, so this is exit from the COVID-19 environmental biology film crew at Tarzan Falls.